Hello there, welcome back. Now I'm going to look at three Jesse James films, although one of them is more of a background player. But these are three films that look at Jesse James and the co-younger gang from when they were together to what happened afterwards. So I'm looking at these are very long titles for two of them, and so the Great Northfield Minnesota Raid. There's Long Riders, which is long in the title, and you have the Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Bob Ford. So these are three films with interesting titles. They're all interesting films, but they all take a look at the character in different ways. But the one thing they all have is a sense that Jesse James was not that great of a person. That he's pretty nasty. He's not a nice man. Like, we should expect from an outlaw, but it's like he was portrayed earlier as more of like a fighting back against the banks, and he was a hero. And the Assassination of Jesse James shows like Penny Dreadful show him as a hero when he never was. He was a bit of a sociopath, and even with Brad Pitt playing him, they don't hide from the fact that this is not a nice guy at all. This guy murders his friend. There's lots of problems with this guy. He tried to have a family and have the other way and be a man of the people, but there was a sociopath hiding behind him. So I'll go in order, really, of when they were made. So the great, so this is the Phil Kaufman one, and it's the Great Northfield Minnesota Raid. And this one has Robert Duvall, a second time this week in videos, playing Jesse James as a total psycho. But it's really Cliff Robertson's Cole Younger whose story it is. I mean, Cole Younger in this one is the guy who organises the raid, and at this point the gangs had some disasters and them split up, and they don't like each other very much anymore, and this raid had already been set up. So Jesse James is going to go with the rest of his troops that are left to go and do this raid, even though Cole Younger already set up. But he's been injured, and you see him with this sort of vest, this metal vest around him that protects him, and there's so many bullet holes in his body now just from the various bank jobs he's done. So it shows you the life of a criminal is pretty brutal and pretty awful. And this legendary gang that has got lots of sympathy from the voters and has people thinking maybe they should just be like pardoned to stop, as a simple way of stopping all the bank robberies. This film shows that most of them were total psychos and deserved to go to jail, and they're basically using the fact they came out of the Civil War and all the injustices of the Civil War on the South during Restoration led them to this, but a lot of that people didn't do it. So this just shows you, shows you basically these myths are just myths. These people are absolutely horrible, and Jesse and Frank James are just criminals the way you'd see normal criminals. They've just had the luck of being like mythologized, but that myth is not what they're really about. They're just about the money and surviving, basically, in this horrible world where survival is difficult and people are two-faced, especially the criminals. But we stick more with Cole Younger, played by Cliff Robertson. And this is one of Robertson's best performances because he's actually someone to work with. He's an actor who can be very stiff in movies. If you give him very rote dialogue, he's not an actor who can elevate it. But if you cast him right, he can really deliver. And this time he's been cast right, and he's given some good dialogue, and he really gets to chew into it and deliver a really good performance because he's motivated. He's a star, and I think he was the one who was pushed the project, and he pushed Phil Kaufman to be the director, and it was his movie, and he gave Kaufman a lot of space to be for Phil Kaufman. This is one of the films you see Kaufman come in the style that would lead to the right stuff later on, where it was a look at myth, but it's also a look with a right sense of humour, and there's lots of little things that go to the side of the myth, like when they go to Minnesota, and they scout the bank. Cole Younger's there far earlier than Jesse James. He managed to get there by train while Jesse James travels throughout the land. So he gets to set up a lot of people so that he can set up the robbery, so the robbery will go the way he thinks it should go. And he's setting people up because the bank, when they get there, they're meant to be full of money, and it turns out it's not. It's a con because the guy in charge of the bank can't get people to invest their money in the bank. So all the money that's put in the bank is the money from the farmers. So he's a man of the people. Jesse James is a man of the people. So is Cole Younger, apparently. But they're willing to rob the banks that are the money of all the people in them. So he has to con the people into putting the money in the bank, which shows how safe it is, before they rob the bank. And that's a big part of the film, which is a wonderful coffin touch that other directors wouldn't have the patience for. Like, in the next film in this series, Young Riders, this takes place over 10 minutes, this whole film. But in this one, it's really is. It's not just to go into the bank; it's setting up the bank so the money goes into the banks, the money from the people who really need the money. And during that time, you see Jesse James hide out with this widower, have his gang hide out with this widower who he seems very nice to them behind her back. He says, "Oh, she's a northerner. She deserves what she gets," and all the rest of it. So he's very two-faced, and he kills people for no reason beyond malice, and these killings come back on him eventually. So he's a total sociopath or psychopath, depending on how you want to class it. There's something wrong with this guy. So eventually the raid happens. The different factions of this group get together. They do the raid. It's a total disaster, and they start to get hunted down by the townsfolk who, by this point, you've got to know a little bit because Coffin spends time with Cole Younger and getting to know these characters. So when they realise they're getting robbed, they come after these robbers with guns and are hunting them down like dogs. So it shows another side of being a bank robber, which is like basically not everyone's on your side. The myth's more fun than the reality. So this is a wonderful film. It's not seen that often because it's such a dark take on the myth, but it actually is a wonderful film that I'd highly recommend you see because it's just great. The next film we're looking at is The Long Riders, which, it's not a long title, but it's long in a title, which is a big difference. This is the weakest of the three films, I think, and it's still a very good film, so that shows you how good this collection of films are. Like the weakest of the three actually is still definitely worth seeing. It's the one that's probably the least historically accurate. When I say probably, I mean it's definitely the least historically accurate. But it's the most Hollywoody in a good sense, as you get these characters and you see the progression in the gang until everything goes wrong. Where it is basically when they go to Minnesota and just the whole hell breaks loose. Now this is a film where the gimmick was the brothers from different gangs played by actual brothers. So the Carradine brothers was David Keith and Robert Carradine played the younger gang. The Stacey Keach and James Keach played the James brothers. So Stacey Keach played Frank James and Jesse James played by James Keach. Which is weird that Stacey Keach didn't play Jesse James because he was the bigger star and it was the better part, and it was like wondering why he took the lesser part. But he was one of the producers, so I think he was just trying to get it made and maybe thought his brother would be better than that part, I don't know. But and then you get Randy Quaid and Dennis Quaid as like other members of the gang, and then you get Christopher Guest and his brother Nicholas Guest as the Ford brothers, who are eventually going to cause problems for Jesse James down the line. So, and it's basically the first half is watching them all as they do the robberies, as they are successful, and how they spend the money, how they spend their time, and how they interact with each other. Because it's a business basically, and it's a business where some people get on, and some people are more equal than others. You know, it's like you have your people in charge, and you have other people you just say, just go do this, do what you're told. So Dennis Quaid gets thrown at the gang early on for being a psycho. and you see him go and have a normal life, even though he's a bit of a nasty piece of work. You see the Ford brothers wandering around in the background for most of the film. And basically it focuses on the younger gang, because the younger gang is more interesting. And Jesse James and his brother Frank are characters who are important to the gang, but have less personality than youngers. The youngers are more of a force of nature, so you get to see the kind of darkness and the light within the David Carradine's character. He's co-younger, and then the other characters, you get to see Keith Carradine as a more intelligent brother, and Robert Carradine as the kind of upstart, and you get a sense of all these personalities. Randy Quaid as a boisterous member of the gang, and you just get you do definitely a sense of these various characters and who they are and what they are and how they interact, and the story just continues as they're getting hunted by the Pinkertons and how they basically are surviving, and how fake life just turns against them at a certain point when they've pushed their luck too far. There's too many people after them, where it's obvious eventually things are going to go wrong, and when they go to Minnesota, things go horribly wrong. So this is a film with lots of good action stuff, and the action's there, but mostly it's atmosphere of these people hanging out with each other, and the music, and the different saloons they go to, and the different people and the prostitutes they hang out with, and their interaction with each other, and just a sense of them over time and how they're dealing with the fact their lives are getting harder as this life they've chosen had its peak, and now they're beyond the peak and they have to see, okay, what's going to happen now. So it's a really good film, but you even get a sense before you even research it, this is a Hollywood version of events. Everything's a bit too neat, but it's wonderfully told. It's like it's a myth of these characters more than the reality, but it's really well done, and it's definitely worth your time. It's just when you put it against the Kaufman film and the film that we cover now, it looks, lesser. And even in Walter Hill's catalogue, it's not one of the strongest films, because Hill had other more interesting films running about that same time. The Driver and Hard Times is more interesting. Even though Hard Times is a problem in the second act, its peaks are stronger, I think. And The Warriors, 40 Hours, Streets of Fire, it was on a good roll at this point. And I think this one's a good one, but it's not. It's sort of like Southern Comfort in a sense of it's good, it's just not great. But compared to most films, it's still pretty damn good and pretty damn entertaining. The Assassination of Jesse James by the killer Robert Ford is from the director of Chopper, and it's a really good film. Like rewatching it recently reminded me how good it was, because I hadn't seen it for years. And one of the interesting things watching it is Jesse James is only in it for half the film. Now, like Minnesota Raid, the star of it was always one of the producers. But the funny thing is, in this case, he's a star, he's up above the title, but it's really not his film. Like, a lot of other actors get the space to actually show what they're made of. So, you have a young Jeremy Renner in it, you have Sam Rockwell in it before he was really big, you have Casey Affleck as Bob Ford, and you have lots of other faces you'll recognise as, I know that face, I maybe don't know the name, but I recognise the face, of lots of actors who you would see pop up a lot in other things. It's one of those films where lots of faces, I recognise that face. So, and they all get their moment. Sam Shepard is Frank James, and he's up at the beginning of the film, and he's gone from it. But there is a sense of, like, this is not a movie star hogging all the scenes for himself. He gets good scenes, but there's lots of other scenes where he's not there, and his presence is felt even though he's absent, and that makes him more successful, because it's almost like a case of the Pitt knowing that in some ways he was sort of like Dracula in this film, in a sense of people are going to talk about him when he's not there, so half the time you don't even need to be in the scene, the presence is there, so less is more. So when he comes on screen, the presence of his character is always there. So it's one of those things that really work the film, as a sense of you don't have an actor, lead actor, hogging all the scenes. I mean, even in the Minnesota one with Cliff Robertson, he's not hogging all the scenes. I mean, he's like, he's in more scenes, he's in more of the film, percentage-wise, but he's doing a lot of scenes with other people who are his co-stars are stealing the scenes, and he's letting them. So it's similar to Minnesota film in the sense of that you have a lead actor who is not hogging the scenes. Now the film takes place after the co-younger Jesse James gang has split. Minnesota has happened already. It's been a disaster. There's not much anyone can do about it. It's a disaster. No one can do anything about it. And now Jesse James has a gang of different people who he doesn't have any real respect for. It's like the pros they used to work with are gone. The scores they're taking are a much lesser level because there's less money around now and people are wise to their tactics. So it's hard to get a big score anymore. And the people that they're working with are people he doesn't quite trust. And most of the film takes place in the aftermath of the one raid they have, which is on a train where they don't get half as much money as they expect. And they all split up after the raid. And no one's very happy. It's into winter. People are grumpy. Frank James decides that's it. There's no real future in this business of robbing. So he's buggered off. Oops. And basically, Jesse James is in a kind of spiral of he doesn't quite sure what to do. He's got a family. He's a person who can disappear into the world and not get recognised and talk to people. But he's also a guy without a future, without anything really. He's just hanging on. But as the film shows early on, he's also a character who's paranoid, sure he's doomed, and is a dangerous person to be around. Like, most of the deaths that take place in this film are between members of the gang on each other rather than the law. It's really pretty much, the people are forced against each other. And like the Coffin film, this emphasises how poor most people are in this area and how hard it is to make a living in this area and how difficult it is. And the sense of, like, a lot of the guys who are in the gang in the first raid are there because it's money. Like, because of most of the time they're just hiding out in their various places with not making any money and wondering what to do with their lives because there's nothing to find. There's just nothing there. So Bob Ford character played by Casey Affleck is a character who hero worships Jesse James from when he was a kid, and now he's like 19 and he finally gets to ride with him, and he's trying to prove to everybody he's a person who's of a future. He doesn't realise that this era's already passed. People have made their names and it's not going to be the same anymore, and he's just one of the many who have seen the glories of the past and are never going to be able to live up to it. He doesn't understand that, and he just annoys everybody because he's so hero worshipping of Jesse James and Frank James. But he's also a bit creepy and weird, and people don't really want to hang out with him that much. It's like one of those things, is like, this one's a weirdo. Jesse James, after the raid, brings him with him for a couple of days to help him move house and things. But even after that, his wife doesn't like him. Like, Jesse James' wife doesn't trust him, so he gets sent away. And they don't meet up again. These two characters don't meet up again till the halfway point of the film. So a lot of time, you spend a lot of time with Bob Ford and go into this other house where there's these other members of the gang who are lost to what to do now. And there's various people trying hunting them down, but it's like they just keep moving, and it's not a great life. And basically, Jeremy Renner's character takes one of the other guys to his father's house for a bit, and the guy sleeps with his stepmother and causes problems. So by the time the halfway point comes on, these two characters are ready to kill each other. And basically, the one death that happened that spirals everything out is when Jeremy Renner gets killed, shot in the head by Bob Ford because he's attacking Bob Ford's pal. And that spirals the rest out, because that's what the kind of thing that they're hiding from everybody from then on is what happened there. But even then, before that, there's things like this other character who's always a pest. He's been talking to other people who are thinking of selling out Jesse James for basically a pardon. Because they think, well, he's going to get caught anyway, might as well sell him out and just get the pardon. And Jesse James is aware of that, and he's trying to hunt down the guys who are trying to sell him out. So this is a paranoia just there. It's like, this is the last grasp. This is not the great escape from the area with lots of money. This is like people who are grasping at straws. I mean, the funny thing is, the film this reminded me a lot was The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, where it was a sense of doom and gloom and sense of paranoia in every conversation, in the sense that no one's getting out of this with any dignity intact. Everyone's screwed. And it's a sense of this the way the world is at this time. It's just like the world has just collapsed onto these people, and there's no escape. The law's now in charge. The people with the money now control everything, and then everyone else just has to survive. So the second half is basically Jesse James trying a new gang up. So he gets Charlie Ford, who is played by Sam Rockwell, who is not very bright but is loyal. So they end up getting Bob Ford. At this point, Bob Ford, knowing that if Jesse ever finds out about his cousin, Jeremy Renner, who's his cousin, getting shot by him, he's dead. So he makes a deal with the police to capture or kill Jesse James. So he gets his brother to get him in the gang and basically slowly worms his way in to get close enough to Jesse James to shoot him. And that's a big section of the film, is this kind of creepy interaction between Jesse James and Bob Ford, where Jesse James knows he can't trust him that much, but he's not quite sure if it's because he just doesn't like him, or he freaks him out a little bit, or if there's another reason. And he goes back and forward, really. He's not quite sure if it's good or bad, or... And it's just the sense of layers of different reasons for people doing things. You're never going to fully figure it out. So here Jesse James becomes a more mysterious figure. Like, he's self-aware his time's up, but he's not quite sure how to go out, how to exit. So he ends up being shot in the back by Bob Ford. And then it becomes the idea of what Bob Ford does with the kind of the idea of he's killed his legendary figure. He was already half dead at the beginning of the film. And what does he do with the fame? And it's like, it's a very fleeting fame where everyone thinks he's a coward for how he shot him, and it's just a tricky thing to how do you live with this infamous act where you're kind of the villain. So it becomes a complicated film, a complicated story, and the lead character is known as a coward by everybody, and he's not liked by many people, and that's alienating for the audience. Which what I like about it is the fact is it's like, criminals should not be easy to look at. They should be, a lot of the time these are really sociopathic people who in real life would make you uncomfortable, because their trade goes to violence and they're quite capable of being violent to anybody. This film, just like Minnesota Raid, shows that. It's like, you shouldn't be hero worshipping these people. These are violent, nasty people. I mean, Long Rider's much more the legend of it, but these two films are much more about, no, these are not people to actually revere in any way. I mean, the film, even though Brad Pitt's playing Jesse James, the film's pretty ambiguous about Jesse James. It's like, yeah, he's got a reputation, but he's also a lunatic who's does some nasty stuff, and even though he tries to have a family and things, it's sort of setting his own ego. It's like there's no future for this family because of what he's done, and it's like there's a kind of nasty, awful side to him that the film's always hitting at, that's always there, that's floating through, which makes it a really interesting film. So I'd recommend watching all three of these films, but the Minnesota and the Jesse James one are the two strongest ones. But Long Rider's the most fun. So take that the way you want to take it. So that's me for now. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll be back soon with another one. Right, bye.